From Variety, celebrating more than 118 years covering the business of entertainment, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. Ramy Youssef is taken aback by how some fans have reacted to his not-so-positive take on President Biden in his new comedy special.
My favorite thing about doing stand-up in America and being a Muslim in America, which I still think it is my favorite place to be a Muslim despite anything, is because this is supposed to be the place where you can really express yourself and do what you want. You know, it's like, this is not an authoritarian regime. This is not, some of these places that I know a lot of immigrants have had issues with and then want to be in America. So I'm kind of almost like, I'm totally bought into being an American. Isn't the point of it that we're supposed to be able to question it? And so I ask like two questions. I don't even really ask two questions. I point out a few pretty obvious things about Biden, and it's somehow the part that makes everyone the most nervous.
I'm Michael Schneider, and on this episode of the award-winning Variety Award Circuit Podcast, we talk to Ramy Youssef about his recent HBO stand-up special, Ramy Youssef, More Feelings, and in particular, how the current conflict in Gaza changed it. Also in this episode, we chat with Apple's Never Fall star Jake Lacy about his recent string of projects, and we even discover his real name. It's all next on this edition of the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. Stay close. Ramy Youssef is best known as the creator and star of Ramy on Hulu, which follows an Egyptian-American family living in New Jersey as they navigate spirituality, money problems, and political divides. He also serves as co-creator on the Netflix series Mo, and recently starred in Poor Things, the 2023 film by Yorgos Lanthimos starring Emma Stone. His latest HBO comedy special, Ramy Youssef, More Feelings, hits on quite a few current events.
I'm done apologizing. I'm done saying that we're peaceful. For 20 years, we've had to prove to people that we're safe, right? Every time you turn on CNN, there's like some Arab dude talking about how Islam means peace. You know that guy? But he's always shouting it. He's always like, "We come in peace!" You're like, bro, that's the slogan for aliens. That's what aliens say before they take over the fucking planet, bro. I'm done. I'm done saying sorry.
Variety's Salome Hailu and I recently sat down with Youssef to talk about his stand-up and how, in particular, his current routine changed following the war in Gaza and how it continues to evolve, even after he shot the special in February. We also talk about his experience directing an episode of The Bear, and he reveals that he's now working on a new comedy with Will Ferrell. We began by discussing what it was like to be a part of the Poor Things Oscar campaign.
What's been cool, too, is I think with the Poor Things piece of it was just getting to be with that group of people, like being with Emma and being with Mark and Willem and Yorgos.
Yeah.
That was really fun because I think I've been to these award shows in the past for Ramy, but it's always just me. So I'll be at these things and I'm just actually by myself, or sometimes my sister will come with me, and then sometimes she's like, I don't want to go. Yeah. But it was really fun, like doing these things with people, like a cast of a movie. It was very fun.
And a different scene, not the gaggle of comedians that you'll be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just no longer, just these No, we're at the Oscar. No,
you're a movie star now. You're a movie star.
No, it's always fun seeing comics at those things too, where it's like, yo, dude, how did they let us here? How are we here? This is insane.
Yeah, what was that experience like in sort of that circuit that, doing that whole movie star thing and from red carpets to the junkets and everything that you got to do for Poor Things?
Yes. I mean, you get this feeling of this is the one time we're going to promote it. Right. So with a TV show, there's this, assumption. Okay, first season went well. There'll be a second season. You feel a totally different push and kind of energy around. That's it. The movie's coming out. This is the time, and so it's a lot more intense. We were traveling a bit, all of that, but also, just fun in different ways. Yeah.
Did you get a feeling that Defoe had seen Ramy, or did what was your sort of interaction like with some of these more legendary older actors who've been around the block?
Well, it was so cool. Willem came out and saw me when I was working my hour. That was awesome. And really? He has a very distinct laugh in the audience. So when he likes.
Did that throw you?
No, it made me so happy. I mean, he's just truly one of the nicest dudes. Him and Mark are just so, and Mark came out actually a couple times as well. And so, it was really surreal actually when, it's like I grew up watching, Willem and Mark and also Emma to a degree too, right? So it's like it was really cool to get to make something with them, and then the promotion piece too is just so fun. And don't even get me started on Yorgos too, because it's just like such a genuine fan, like put on Dogtooth during a date and someone being like, why are you showing me this?
And Yorgos had seen the show.
Yeah, he's really impressive. He's seen everything. I mean, he watches stuff that you wouldn't even, like, we'll be hanging out and he'll just throw out a random Mozart in the Jungle reference and you're like, whoa. Yeah, he's one of those dudes.
He's deep cut guy.
No, he is deep cut on things that you didn't think he was cutting.
That's funny. When did you start working on this hour, the special?
It was kind of start and stop for a few years where I would get a window open after putting out a season, and then I'd just go do a bunch of stand-up, but then I'd kind of get sucked back into writing. And then there were a few times where I thought I would film my next hour, because I talked to HBO about it in 2020, after I'd done my first one, and we said, all right, we're going to do a second one. So there kept being this like start and stop, and sometimes it was COVID. And I remember there was like one December, we were like, we're going to do it. And then there was like a new strain, and we're like, all right, it's off. The new strain came. That's how long pieces of it have been in the works. But then I think, I'm definitely very much, I kind of want what I'm doing on stage to feel, I think every comic, but I definitely emphasize just wanting it to feel timely, but also timeless. And so sometimes I'll kind of tend to whittle down the set to, no, but what do I really want to say this day? Like I shot my special February 2nd and 3rd of 2024. And I really was like, what do I want to say on February 2nd and 3rd? Yeah. For real, that I also will look back on and be like, oh, I'm glad I said that. But I really don't want to lose that February 2nd and 3rd, 2024. That's really important for me. So then a bunch of material gets put to the side because of that, which is also kind of cool now, because now I'm thinking about my next hour way sooner than I thought I would. And because I actually did put a lot to the side over the last like 5 years of trying things and kind of not knowing when I was gonna, kind of actually roll on it.
What changed as you took I think I saw your hour in October.
Yeah.
So yeah, what changed? What was important for you to say on February 2nd and 3rd?
So the hour changed a few times. I think like when I first started doing it years ago, I had like maybe just gotten into a relationship and didn't even know what was going on. By the time I shot, I was married, which was really a big shift in kind of what you're talking about and how you're talking about stuff on the personal side. And then I also think that, there are certain bits that I've been doing for a while, everything, about what I've done on a level becomes inherently political just because people look at someone who's Arab or Muslim and it's a politicized thing. Although, I think hopefully we'll be making shifts out of that, but let's say for now. And so there's always that kind of inherent political thing, but then there's also stuff that I do touch on that is kind of the tightrope walks of taking really big concepts and then making them, super personal. And obviously with our show, we had already done that in Palestine and Israel, and in my stand-up, I'd already done versions of it. And then I think in the last, I guess now we're going on 7-8 months, it became something that has risen to the surface for everybody. So it's like, it's always been, when you're taking out time to talk about it for 10 minutes in a set, it's important to you, right? Mm-hmm. On a show, you're dedicating episodes to something. It's important to you, but a lot of times it's felt like a conversation that is, important to who it's important to. And then lately it's kind of felt like something that's, no, this is the conversation, and so, the fact that things that I'm talking about intersect with that moment, it's kind of this happenstance on a level. So it almost seemes more direct than it is in a way.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it felt very, very timely, which makes me wonder just how much did you sort of have to rewrite and rethink and up to the moment. And now, it feels still very much of the moment, like you could have taped it last week, but at the same time, there's more that you could probably talk about, like, right now, what's going on college campuses. There's a lot. I mean, I'm sure your mind is continuing to turn and like, how do I address that now? Or how would I have addressed that now if this special were to be taped this week?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, there was, when I was on the road, I was running like an hour and a half, and then the special became 50 minutes. So yeah, I was putting stuff to the side as I kind of decided to shoot. And I think that there were certain pieces that I definitely wrote in the last few months that were, really direct. I mean, I think that I have a story that's part of the bedrock of the special, where I'm on a date with this Jewish girl, and that's a story that I have told for a really long time. I guess like 2 years, and even getting into that. Hey, I'm not someone who you can throw into the holy war narrative. All of that have been saying, for a while. And then there are other pieces that were very much, this is in direct response to kind of how we're all navigating it, especially because I think part of what's happening is this like confluence of people who are like, we've been talking about this, and then people who are really new to the conversation. And then it's all happening online, which I think is the hardest part. On one level, there's this amazing way that people can talk about information and people can learn things. And on another, which I think we all experience a degree of, it's just, oh, wow, everything is so heated and no one's looking anyone in the eye. There's so much facelessness in terms of like how we, discuss things and disseminate information and all of that. And then the cool thing about being in a stand-up club, intention's just really clear when you're in front of somebody, so there's things that if I had typed them into a comment box might seem like inflammatory, but because we're in the same room and we made the commitment to kind of be in a type of a conversation, I'm the one with the microphone, I'm the one talking, but there is an agreement there. And there is kind of that presence of we're in the same space. There's things you can feel that you could never feel. And so I think it's been this kind of the seesaw between those two things. And that's where I feel really grateful to be doing stand-up, and I write a lot of things that don't become a reality on screen for many years, whether it's like a show or I'm working on a few movie ideas where I'll be kind of, spending a really long time on something that I'm like, oh, I can't wait for someone to hear this. And I'm like, in 2028, but it's just now that you at a certain point, too much about production and you're like, it's probably like 28. But then there's this where it's now. And that's, if I think of something right now talking to you, I could go do it tonight. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Have you felt anything change about how the crowd responds to your material about Palestine before and after October, since you've been telling so many of those stories for so long?
In a way, there's less to explain. There's kind of actually like the distance is shorter. So I think that that's really cool. And I think that, and I have this, optimism, on a level. There's the dread of the, constant human suffering that seems to just, have no end and is incredibly militaristic and, totally emotionally overwhelming. And then there's the piece of it that I can begin to have any sort of grasp on, which is, being in conversation and some of these other things that, again, can feel kind of futile compared to what I just said. But in that context, which is sometimes like kind of all we have, I have an optimism because I'm like, okay, cool. Like say everything you think, like what are we like, let's not dance around stuff. Is this kind of a moment of like a cultural shedding of preconceived notions of, generational, ideas that are needing to be examined and needing to be looked at? And are we kind of in a moment here where we can kind of get it all out and then have something different? And I think I'm kind of just barreling towards that direction.
And that's what's kind of interesting, going back to the idea that you tape this in February and you look now at where the conversation's going. And we are talking about this right now because of the protests, because of everything going on. This is a real conversation.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, it sounds like you are kind of optimistic that at least we're dealing with this now and there is a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic again on the piece where, there seems to be, for some people, connection, that's happening. And then, then there's just like the constant, emotional turmoil of also, how is this still happening, there? And I know so many artists in Palestine and so many people who, even in the West Bank, their life has always been difficult, but is markedly worse and more violent and more violating than ever. So I think that, it's complex, and that's kind of why, the hope in making anything from where we stand, I think, just on the artist end is like, does this allow, hearts to talk in an environment where heads are banging against each other and guns are going off and all of that. And whether that's effective or futile is actually probably, sometimes I'm like, I don't think I'm going to really understand what happened for another like 15, 20 years. And then I'll be able to kind of be like, what was the, what could I have done better? But like, I don't think you could know right now, certain pieces, and then others maybe are more obvious, but I think like on the artist end, it's just kind of important to be like interrogating. And I think every interrogation starts with yourself. And that's always why I approach my work the way that I do.
I mean, 10, 15 years from now, when we're thinking about this time and what it meant, I also think that when people are looking at how Hollywood responded to this moment, your name will come up. I think you've been one of the people most consistently vocal. Like, I can't think of a year before now where someone could have gotten on stage at 30 Rock while hosting SNL and say, "Free the people of Palestine," and it went over as well as it did. I think that'll be like that's a moment. That's a moment that people talked about a lot when it happened, and will continue to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. What did that feel like on stage, and that reaction, even in that moment?
I mean, it was really, I was just really grateful to be there. It was one of the best weeks of my life. I mean, it was a dream, just, and then it was interesting. It's interesting when a dream collides with a whole other moment, and, something to be grateful for that, I guess, because it's also like, nothing's ever really yours. So there's no part of me that was like, oh man, this, am I going to say something? It's like, of course, like, this is the whole point of being a stand-up. That's the whole point of a program that's live, and I had a really great conversation with Lauren about it, where I said, of course I'm going to, this is what I'm doing. And it's cool on that show, they really let you express like, it's actually like, they really do. And Lauren asked me to come on after watching my special. So he knew, he knew me, he's familiar with me. And I think that, to be able to be kind of given a platform where so many people watch, and people really watch that show. I mean, I don't think I've gotten that much of a reaction. I got more of a reaction off SNL than winning a Golden Globe. Like, people really tune in and really kind of see what's happening. And, to be able to have that opportunity live and to be able to just do what you want to do, it's kind of like the ultimate creative expression, and I was really grateful for it. And I had so many just great moments with everyone there, and with Lauren, about the set in particular too. And it made me feel, like creativity and art is really alive, and kind of people can still, say and do what they want.
Which is great, considering how just on edge everyone is right now. I mean, we all feel it. We all feel just this nervousness of everything going on in the world, in this country, what's going on in a election year, especially.
Yeah.
And you probably feel it even on stage. there's a point where you're pretty hard on Biden.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people are like, yeah, listen, I know we all have some problems, but listen, the alternative could be the end of democracy. So maybe we just kind of just What do you think? And what's the reaction that you get from folks who are kind of nervous about just everything right now?
It's true. I mean, I do think that, I'm in a position with what a lot of what I do and have done since I started my career would be polarizing, for people, especially people in the various communities that I'm involved with. So I would have people who, are on the more conservative end that are really upset that I'm saying a certain thing. And that, when I say conservative end, I mean, that's like conservative Muslim and conservative Republican, right? Who I wish they could see just how much they get along. I mean, these are two groups that basically the only thing separating them is some Arabic, because otherwise they have the same point of view. I mean, they hate the same people. Yeah. They are really pissed about, all sorts of the same stuff. I mean, if only, they could just really, get past one or two little things. They'd love each other. Yeah. But on that end, a lot of my favorite thing about doing stand-up in America, being a Muslim in America, which I still think it is my favorite place to be a Muslim despite anything, is because this is supposed to be the place where you can really express yourself and do what you want. It's like, this is not an authoritarian regime. This is not, some of these places that I know a lot of immigrants, have had issues with and then want to be in America. So I'm kind of almost like, I'm totally bought into being an American. Isn't the point of it that we're supposed to be able to question it? And so I ask two questions. I don't even really ask two questions. I point out a few pretty obvious things about Biden. And it's somehow the part that makes everyone the most nervous, where I'm like, wait, are we in that? What, isn't the whole point of this thing that you're allowed to prod at it? And if it's that fragile that just calling it what it is, will send everything into a tailspin, how's that on me? And I've kind of likened it to being in an abusive situation where it's don't say anything, because then you're going to get hit harder. Yeah. And these things are going to get worse, if you speak, which just feels like it's so the fear is oh my God, we're going to get into the end of democracy. And it's so you're telling me I should act like what that would look like so that we don't go there? Because the end of democracy means don't talk about the leader, right? Yeah. So, hey, don't talk about the leader, so you're not in a situation where you can't talk about the leader. And it's well, wait, then we're already there.
Right.
And you're in such an interesting position that you talk about in the special, and that everyone wants a piece of Ramy Youssef. Everyone wants a piece of you, and that must just be surreal. These calls that you get, everyone wants your stamp of approval. There's something about you that they're like, hey, Ramy, let's just get Ramy on our side.
By everyone, the people who know or care, probably 6 people at the State Department and 30 guys from my mosque. Yeah, but that to me, that's everyone. Yeah, between the mosque and the State Department, that is everyone.
It's a wide range.
Yeah.
The diversity is what's crucial here.
This is a lot. It's everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the special. Even from a visual perspective, it is fascinating. Your buddy Chris Storer directed.
My life partner.
Your life partner. He loves the tight shots. There's a lot of close-ups of Ramy. Yeah.
The first special is super wide. This is really big in the round, super lit up, and then we just flipped it. I mean, quite simply, we wanted to take the opposite approach in a way that kind of matched the material, because it's kind of, again, making really big things personal. And then I think we kind of talked about the style of shooting it really personal. And, we wanted it to feel like a pop-up show, small venue, intimate, like a real night of stand-up, dressed down and close up. And yeah, we went close up.
I know. I think we could HD. We can see deep into you.
You could see acne scars for sure. They're there.
And the title,
You did feelings first. Now we're on more feelings. Is Hour 3, is it a trilogy? Will it be?
Hour 3 is going to be feelings Tokyo Drift.
Right.
Is the idea right now.
Too fast, two feelings.
Too fast, two feelings.
Yeah.
I kind of had a couple of, I don't even know if I ever had any other names that really popped up, but I was feeling in some ways that it was an extension of that chapter. And it felt, I just kind of felt like, oh, this would be cool. I loved naming the first Special Feelings because I have, again, always felt this contention when you are at the nexus point of something people don't know a lot about, i.e. being Arab, being Muslim. Someone could watch something and be like, that's how it is. And it's like, no, these aren't facts. It's like, I get to do what every other artist gets to do. And it's just my version. And really what it is, it's just what I'm feeling. And so I really liked that name a lot. And then I thought, man, I like it so much. I'll kind of do it again.
Just yeah.
No, keep it consistent.
There's a theme.
Your other joke that I really appreciated was the recognition that the South really is everywhere, because I don't know have you spent much time here in LA?
Yeah.
So have you ever been to West Hills in the Valley?
Yes.
It's the South. We live very close to the South.
Dude, Temecula.
Temecula. I was just in Temecula, and I'm from Texas, and I got there for the first time, and I was like, oh, I'm home. I feel like I'm around my people.
No, I would really feel this like anytime, especially doing stand-up in LA. It's like, hey, you got a show in Oxnard, Oxnard. You show up and you're like, whoa, where am I? This is a different place.
Yeah, a lot of pickup trucks in the parking lot. Yeah.
And I found that relationship with every city that I kind of went to as I was touring the States. And I was like, oh, wow, like, again, much more united than we. The States are more united than it seems, for better or for worse.
That must be so fascinating to just tour the country and to see that. You get like a firsthand look at just what this country is thinking and feeling right now.
Yeah, you get to see what people are talking about, what they care about, what they laugh about, and I like it. I like going to spots that are. I like the South. I like Temecula. It's not a judgment. It's more just pointing it out for me is just it's like, we can't really. We're going to spend all this time trying to kind of like organize everyone's point of view and like categorize it because we kind of think that'll give us some peace of mind. And it's just not going to happen.
Well, that's one of the things I like about Mo, actually, is that because it takes place in Houston, it's like that's Houston. Yeah. That it's like, it's not just the Houston that you expect, but that is Houston as well. And so it's a chance to see that Houston. And, that's, I guess, the South. Is Texas the South?
Texas is Texas, but it's also the South.
Okay. Yeah. I never know if Texas, if they get offended
we're Texas first and then
the South.
And then Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like, when Mo and I we just hung out in A-Leaf, in this neighborhood that I think there's like 400 languages spoken in A-Leaf, So that's not what you would think of when you think about Texas. Mm-hmm. That immediately was just a light bulb of, wow, what is going on here? We have the perception that someone who grew up in New Jersey, New York, thinks about Texas. And then I show up and I go, this is just not that at all, at least in this neighborhood. And then another neighborhood is, the thing I thought of. And another neighborhood is just, feels like Topanga Canyon, has like its own set of things. And that diversity, obviously, we really go out of our way to show on that, in that show. And we have like in the pilot, even just Mo's like selling sneakers to this dude who's just like literally wearing a cowboy hat. And I think that scene actually, when we shot that, was when I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. Yeah. Like I was like, I haven't seen this. I haven't seen the guy who was just speaking Arabic, then on the phone, and then listening to music and, hip hop in his car and then selling fake Yeezys to a cowboy. I'm like, this is pretty dope.
And the cowboy's totally down as part of it.
Of course.
That's part of why I love the show so much, because he rolls up and I was like, yeah, that cowboy is like every teacher I had growing up in the suburbs of Austin. Like that is very, like that's Texas.
Yeah. Culture's culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking back to Chris Storer real quick. So obviously you directed the episode episode of The Bear this in season 2.
Yeah.
What do we know about season 3? Did you direct another episode? What do we know?
I was hoping to direct another one, but time-wise, it didn't work out. So now I'm gunning for season 4, hopefully, if there's time. But it started to get tricky with schedule.
Maybe another trip overseas or something.
I think we might have to. I told Chris, I'm like, listen, man, if we need another Copenhagen part, we could do it. No, it was really fun. It was honestly, I've directed a bunch of, my Hulu show, and getting to pop out and work with a different cast, different crew. Chris was in Chicago holding down all of that, and I got to kind of just go off to Copenhagen and have this, experiment of an episode, and it was really special. And it just got me so excited about directing stuff that I'm not in, which if anyone has ever watched Ramy knows I love not being in the show Ramy.
You're not in the third season. You're fully not in the third season at all.
One of my favorite things is not being in the show because I just have so much fun kind of doing this other end of it. But then, getting to go and do that there was really, it was really fun.
Yeah, we should remind people it's the Honeydew episode where Marcus goes and learns the pastry art in Copenhagen, which was really such a lovely episode. Just it was like a nice gift away from all the tense screaming and at the beef.
It was I was like, wow, I got the script and I was like, I can't believe no one's yelling cousin in this. I mean, this is wild. It was
no one's swearing.
No, it was truly a gift. Yeah.
So what else are you excited about now that, Golden Globe winner / feature film actor / producer / stand-up / I don't know. What you do it all, Ramy, but what are you excited about? What's next?
I'm working on a bunch of stuff that I'm really excited about. I'm in development mode. There's a few things that kind of popped up to the, I guess, front of the queue that I just kind of ran towards. We were a little bit ambiguous about how we were going to do more Ramy episodes. And then I think the strike really put us in a spot where we said, okay, this is something that we kind of want to probably just pick up at a different time. So that's something that I'm excited to at some point call Hulu and be like, hey, they know the vision of what could feel like a last or maybe even kind of 2-part season type thing. And they were just kind of like, all right, let's just pick it up when it's the right time.
When you're ready. Oh, so you got that Larry David deal of I
got that little the door is here, and I think that's what, I really appreciate from them too. Cause when I first did the development deal for Ramy, they hadn't even put out Handmaid's Tale. We went into pitch and they were like, we've got this show. It's going to be our Game of Thrones with women. And I was like, wait, what? The women are the dragons? I don't get this pitch, and they're like, trust us, it's going to be great. And it was so I feel like we kind of took this leap of faith together, especially in the comedy, side. So very few times you can feel like a network you have history with. So I think we have, it's nice to have that there.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now kind of, figuring out a few things. When does this come out again, this podcast?
Sometime in the next month or so. Well, you want to give us some scoop? It's Ramy wants to tell us something. I can tell.
As long as you need us to.
I tell he wants to tell us something.
Well, I'll do because I think they're announcing it on May 15th, but I'm so you can cut this part out.
Oh, it'll
be after May 15th.
It'll be after May 15th. Yeah. Right now I'm writing a show with Will Ferrell, who's amazing, and he's just my favorite comedic actor from forever.
Wow.
So we've been working on that, which has been very fun.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It's been very,
we
very
need
fun.
more.
It's I keep telling him I don't want to say too much about it. I think we should just drop a trailer, but it's so it's going to be really fun. I mean, it's a thing that Will had a really cool idea, and then we met to talk about it, and then it grew into this whole other really cool idea, and so it's gonna be very fun, and I'm gonna get to be in it with him, which I if you told me at any point of my life, I would have been like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's amazing.
So it's very exciting.
That is amazing. So they're announcing it at the upfront at the Hulu.
At the Netflix upfront.
Yeah. Or it's Netflix.
It's at Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Is there a title?
No title.
Okay.
It's just, you know.
We're just going to keep, we're going to sit here until we get more. We're just pulling little.
We will one
I
day
will have a PDF of the pilot by the end of this.
We will drop a trailer. I don't think there's a pilot anywhere.
You're going to act it out at the upfront, you and Will. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's been really fun. So I've been working on that and more stand-up and and then just kind of, you know, background kind of figuring out just there was like everyone wanted to write during the strike. I don't know that any of us did, but like the rumor is no one did, but I did kind of begin at least a few things that I was excited about. So those are like, but I've been, it's been like I've had a lot of gratitude for the last year. I think, you know, if I think back to, I don't know, probably around the time maybe we first met was maybe around the first season of Ramy. Yeah. And when I think about that, that was just really, I couldn't believe that was happening and that I even was going to get to do a second season. That was kind of, I was like, wow, great. Even when you get the pilot, you're like, oh, wow, I get to do a pilot. And you go, okay, they picked it up. Great. Even if it's just one season, sick. They'll probably cancel it, but it'll be a cult classic, you know, and then to kind of be on this other end, I've been feeling this thing, and maybe part of it's like doing this thing with Will right now and like being in this new chapter where he's like someone who I, you know, have always just thought the world of, getting to be like, wow, we got to make like 30 episodes of that, second season of Mo, and we have this animated show at Amazon that hopefully will come out towards the end of the year, but we've been working on 2 seasons of that. So yeah, I feel really grateful.
Yeah. That's Ramy Youssef. Check out his latest stand-up special, Ramy Youssef, More Feelings, now streaming on Max. After the break, we talk to Apples Never Fall star Jake Lacy. From Los Angeles, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. And we're back. It's the Variety Award Circuit Podcast, and I'm Michael Schneider. Based on Big Little Lies star Leanne Moriarty's novel of the same name, Peacock's Apples Never Fall follows former tennis coaches Stan and Joy Delaney, played by Sam Neill and Annette Bening, who sell their tennis academy and hope to spend more time with their adult children, played by Allison Brie, Jake Lacy, Connor Merrigan-Turner, and Essie Randalls. But things take a turn when a mysterious young woman knocks on their door and enters their lives. When Joy suddenly disappears, her children must re-examine their parents' marriage as their family's darkest secrets begin to surface.
Seriously, Logue, this is our big lead, that Mom bought a smoothie.
Okay, well, you have to admit, it's kind of weird. Why would Mom drive 30 miles away for a thing she could get 10 blocks from home? And there's the Aberdeen connection, 2 days before she disappeared.
Or left.
Brooke, they found Mom's bike on the black market.
I'm just saying there's still a real possibility that she's fine.
Yeah, there's also a very real possibility that she is not, Brooke.
I recently met up with Jake Lacy to talk about Apples Never Fall and his other Emmy contender, the Showtime film The Caine Mutiny Court Martial. We began by joking about all the things we don't know about him, starting with his real name.
Jameson is my first name, Jameson Lacy. But everybody's always called me Jake. It's not like a showbiz thing. It's like my parents call me Jake, and but yeah, Jameson Griffin Lacy.
Does anyone call
Social 716?
Exactly. What was the name of your first pet?
Yeah.
Your mom's maiden name?
Yeah.
So it's funny because this whole Emma Stone thing is going on right now, where she's been talking about how her real name is Emily, and now she feels like she's at the stage where maybe she wants to be called Emily.
Was that a union thing?
It was a union thing.
She had to go in as John Emma Stone.
Pretty much. I can't imagine there was a Jameson Lacy. You probably would have been okay with your name.
Yeah, I went to drama school and I was graduating, and you had to, make this big decision, which is totally changeable and not that much of a big deal. But what you wanted to be called, what you would put on a resume, and I put down Jameson Lacy, and the dean of the school, this really wonderful man who's in his 80s then, he's since passed, Gerald Friedman. He was like, "Who is this Jameson?" And I was like, it's me. That's my name. And he was like, you're the most Jake person I know. What is this? Like, Jameson doesn't walk into the room. Jake walks into the room. Like, you're Jake. Just do Jake. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
And then you decked him.
And I just laid him out. Stage combat.
How dare you?
Level 3. Yeah. You know what? Billy Magnuson is a lovely actor. He was a year ahead of me. And at the time, the dean was like, Billy's not going by William. Mm-hmm. Billy is a Billy. That's it. He, you see him, you go, that guy's name must be Billy. It is not William Magnuson,
Had you gone by Jake at all? Had your friends called you Jake, or
my whole life?
Yeah.
My whole life.
Okay.
No, almost
so
no
it's normal.
one.
It's not like you just suddenly.
No, outside of like my grandparents and my wife and like a couple of really close friends, like
when people really
Jake.
Pissed at you.
Yeah.
It's Jameson.
Yeah.
So
my parents call me Jake to this day. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a deviation. Jameson was the deviation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also people now are like, oh, Jameson, that's very nice. Why don't you go by that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. In 3rd grade, it didn't seem that cool. Jake seemed a lot cooler.
Yeah. And you're pretty well established now at this point.
just hard pivot. Well, tell that to Emma Stone. Emily Stone.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Lovely.
It is lovely. But
she's a fantastic actor, no matter what the name. But just Stone even would be fine.
Once you're sort of, this is Hollywood. They put you in a lane, right? And once you're sort of known as one kind of person, you are that one kind of person.
I would say, yes, I do think that's true to an extent. Let's make this all about Emma Stone.
We're just going to stick with Emma Stone.
She is a wonderful example of someone who's not done that, who's able to like move from one to the next and kind of continue to grow and expand and change. But I do think that, I don't know, I was thinking about that today, how if you became a big star in a certain light, how costly that could be career-wise to go like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do this over here.
Yeah.
At the end of Everybody's in LA, there's a silly like interview where Brian Glazer is being interviewed by children. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about putting Tom Hanks in Apollo 13. And he was like, it's a story about getting this guy home. So you have to care about who gets home. And he was like, who does America care about the most? Keeping safe. Tom Hanks. Like, that's perfect, And I thought like, it is very interesting. And what if what if Tom Hanks was like, a friend of mine used to be like, I think it would have been interesting to see Tom Hanks in American Beauty instead of Kevin Spacey. Mm-hmm. Like, take a guy who you really don't expect darkness from in that way and then put him into that thing. But also, I don't know career-wise what that does. If then people go, oh, this is what Hanks is all about now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Audience expectations are interesting. Do you feel like you're still at a stage where you can kind of chameleon around, or?
Yes. 'Cause I've never been a star. You know what I mean? Like, no one ever, it's like most people don't know who I am or recognize me. And, there's no thing that I think attached to. I don't know. The first part of my career was a lot of like good boyfriends. There was that for quite a long time, being like a nice guy. And then, a few roles that people, I don't know, saw kind of like changed that a little. And now it feels like there's a little wider, I don't know, scope there as to what people will see me for or think of me as or something like that. But
yeah, you were. I think a lot of people probably still remember you from the later Office as sort of the one of the new Office mates, and you were a pretty good guy.
Yeah,
and then they also know you from being kind of the douchey husband in The White Lotus, of course. So you've kind of run the gamut from nice to douche.
Yes,
your character in Apples Never Fall, he's kind of in the middle of that.
He's right in the middle.
He's right in the middle of douchey at times, but also he loves his family, his effed up family, and he's in a tragic, inappropriate relationship with his boss's wife.
So hot. Such a great relationship. It's going to go the distance.
So
yeah, that's like a really, a mix of things, I suppose. I don't know. It makes me think about like, he's, maybe how we see ourselves and how the world sees us. And, I play, on the show, I played Troy Delaney. And I think in his worst moments, he sees himself maybe worse than he is, and has higher expectations for himself than what he's living up to, you know? So there is this mix of like, he's really committed to the material things, these external things making him feel better. And each of them runs its course, you know, is not like long-term sustainable or healthy or good for you. And has like done some things that he's not proud of, you know. It's like he's the one who kind of broke up his own marriage. He, you know, cheated on his wife, and but also he's human, you know, like he's grown up in this house of very high expectations and an overbearing, borderline abusive father, and a, you know, emotional entanglement with his mom and his siblings. And I think maybe doesn't have a great barometer for what is what it is to just be human, what it is to just be like flawed and trying to be better, and to know that like there's room to grow and people will like love you along the way. Like that's not really been set up for him, nor is it the mindset he's in when you see him in the show. So he is somewhere between like a douche and a good guy. Yeah. You know?
And it's also kind of nature versus nurture, right? This what do you make of this family? This high performing family. They're tennis superstars. There's a definite family business that then the kids aren't quite into, and at the same time they do spend a lot of time together. You know, it is a cohesive unit. They have dinners, they have a nice house. There's a relationship between these siblings, but there's also just this tense atmosphere and these parents who are overbearing, like you mentioned. What do you think of these family? Would you want to be a part of them? What's your take on this whole dynamic?
No, I would choose not to be a part of the Delaney family. My parents are very loving and supportive, and
that's good.
And kind.
Do you have a family business? Do they?
No. My dad worked for the Forest Service for many years. He was an archaeologist, and my mom was an educator. So not a family business to go into. But I think, you know, somebody, at least in regard to the siblings, I think it was one of the other castmates, but had said that like each of the siblings thinks that they're the black sheep. They have this idea that the other three have some kind of cohesive bond or a thing that unites them all, and that they are the odd man out. And I really appreciated that. It's like there is like a weird narcissism and, I don't know, not obsession, but just like a little bit of having the blinders on to other people's needs or lives or what's happening. And some of that, I think, is channeled through this idea of playing like a competitive sport where it's a single person. Like you don't have a team to rely on. Mm-hmm. It's like your win or your loss is on you. You know, there's no one to go like, well, if they'd done this, or, you know, this hadn't happened. And that can create an environment where you are kind of focused on your own successes and failures, as opposed to like, how can I be of service to this group? What does the group need from me? And so they have this bond and an affinity for one another, a care for one another, but it's really not until the end of the show, until Joy's return, and their understanding of why she left, that sort of starts to break apart just a little bit. You know, like I really appreciate that you don't see the result in a way. You just go like, oh, it's thawing a little bit, or that it's, I don't know, the hardness between them is kind of cracking a little, and there's some room for light to get in there, or a little love to get in there.
It does, yeah. It's a definite uplifting, which you don't get that often with a murder mystery show that ends up not being a murder mystery, which is kind of a unique format for spoilers for people who haven't seen by now. But,
she's alive.
But in some ways, like, you know, what's the one twist we haven't seen in a good murder mystery? It's when they actually weren't murdered. They were just, you know, taking a few weeks off.
That, or like, what are the other options? Spontaneous combustion, that the person just absolutely dissolved into particles.
Or they were never there to begin with.
They were right. you get a little sixth sense.
Yeah.
We just saw If yesterday, you know?
Uh-huh.
I spent the last 20 minutes. I mean, shout out to John Krasinski. I spent the last 20 minutes of that film bawling in a children's movie. My kids on either side of me being like, I'm a little emotional. And I was like, yeah, me too, man. Oh, God. And after
It's okay to see daddy cry.
My wife was like, she was like, we just got Sixth Sense. Like, he wasn't real. I was like, yeah, you're
Did
right.
you just spoil it for me, Jake Lacy?
Oh, no, you'll see it coming. But it still is so affecting. I was like, I was in tears.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, those are the options for whoever's doing the next family member gone missing, combustion, alien abduction, Sixth Sense.
So since you just went to go see the Krasinski movie, I got to ask, did you guys have any conversation about this new Office that's coming, and what's your expectations for this thing?
I just heard about it.
Yeah.
I know zero about it. And all I can think is like, if Greg Daniels is involved, I think there's a 99% chance that it's incredibly fun.
It's going to be good.
Like he's been, I don't know, a genius at comedy for 30 years. You know, script unseen, sight unseen, no understanding of what it is. Somebody said it takes place at a newspaper,
like a small town newspaper. So it's.
Which I think is funny because print is like a dying thing. It's so funny to set it in a place like that.
Yeah, but then it reminds me, you know, Dunder Mifflin, they were selling paper
100%.
in the 2000s.
Yes,
it's the
great.
whole idea of this, just like this sad, dying newsroom.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be great. I mean, look at you working with some, you know, between Greg Daniels and Mike White, and you said your IMDb is not strong, but I look at your IMDb, it's pretty damn strong.
Just burn it down. Yes, maybe that's more to do with like, I don't know, really White Lotus was the first time that I felt like making that. And then also, you know, people watching it and responding to it was the first time that I felt like I could show up on set and like really take up my space and not feel like I had the mentality for the first like 10 years of my career getting to work with all these wonderful, generous people, you know, in front or behind the camera. I had this mentality of just wanting to be like, I'm going to show up. I'll do exactly what's expected of me and then punch out and you'll never hear from me again. Thanks for your time. Mm-hmm. Like, don't want to be a bother. Don't want to rock the boat. Don't want to ruffle any feathers. And that's not to say now I go in and be like, let's fucking destroy this thing. But I feel like I have more of a place to ask things or to build something by collaborating or saying like, what does that mean? How does this work? What are we going to do here? How are you going to shoot it? What do you want to do with this? Like, really being in the mix to the extent that people will let me be, you know, not to force my opinion on people or something, but just to be a part of it, just to want to know what every department is thinking and what their vision for it is and how I can be a part of it and fit in there. And so, yeah, anyway, that just like, I don't know, it's just getting older maybe, or getting more opportunities or something. But yeah, that's been sort of a nice shift to feel more and more comfortable, lower expectations from myself or from others or something, and more room to like explore and working on these projects.
Well, and then the other project that's in this awards cycle is Cane Mutiny Court Martial, which was also just a fascinating, I mean, watching that and how it's almost, it's a stage play, basically, like this one take. It's William Friedkin's final project as a director as well. And I know Guillermo del Toro was there on set too, right? Like shadowing him basically as like the backup director. So you've got two legendary directors there, just, you know, directing essentially this play that you're a part of. So, I mean, that must have been just wild.
Yeah, that probably had the greatest effect on me in the last, I don't know, 10 years, like professionally. It was incredible. We met up at Billy's house to do this, you know, ostensibly like a reading. Everybody's like got their pencils and their scripts and everybody's like a, you know, good little student. And we get up to this, you know, it's stunning house in Bel Air overlooking like the whole valley. And he's like, well, we're not going to read it. That's for sure. And everybody kind of cracks up and he's like, yeah, we're not going to read it. We're not going to rehearse. I've been doing this for 70 years. And the thing that in all that time that I have found to be the most important is spontaneity. I want to be able to film you hearing these things for the first time and saying them for the first time, and that whatever organically comes out of that is the most important thing I could capture. So I want to build a world where we can do that. And because this isn't an action movie, we can do it. So like I've never heard that before, you know, and he was like, we're going to do 1 or 2 takes and that's all you'll get. And some of these scenes are, Kiefer Sutherland was up day 1. He's got a 21-page scene. Like that's the first shot of the movie of the filming process is like action. Now do 21 pages of cross-examination, defending your choices as a naval commanding officer of this ship. And it brings like an electricity that you can't, well, I don't know. I'll say it brings like an electricity I've never experienced before. There's incredible editors and DPs, and you can stitch a thing together that gives the audience the same, maybe similar enthusiasm or experience or narrative. I don't know, but to actually work in that space where you go, this is the only time I'm going to get to say this, to like stand up for myself / my character and defend the actions he took. And you have to, it forces you into being present and also forces you to be prepared. You can't be like, we'll do the wide a few times and then we'll probably come in for coverage and we'll explore some options. They can find it in the edit. It's like, no, you know, like show up, man, let's rip. It was incredible. Yeah, that's incredible.
That's like, I mean, that's why you're an actor, right? I mean, it's to moments like that.
And to work, you know, I had admired Jason Clarke's work for years, and you know, knowing that he'd already signed on and getting to work with him, and you know, we would like run lines maybe once before we got in for rehearsal or to shoot, you know, and there was a guy who was a witness for prosecution, not the defense. And so we were going to run lines, and I'm over in this room and I'm like, you know, I've just said this whole thing about how like saying it the first time and this and that, but also we were like, let's just by rote say these words so that Billy doesn't get mad at us when we're on set. And I'm texting Jason, be like, dude, you're going to come do this? And I see him after and I'm like, what's up? Did you get my text? And he was like, that's her witness. I mean, I want to go say it for the first time to this dude. Because maybe it means nothing. Like maybe it's absolutely no difference on camera, but maybe it is. Maybe there's something cool there. And like, I don't know, just hanging with people who are working like that, who are thinking in those terms, or talking about Public Enemy and like his death scene and how he, you know, what he was doing there. I don't know. I don't want to like tell his stories, but like it just meant a lot, you know, to work with people that I'm looking ahead to go, that dude, I want to do what that guy does. And then to get to be, peer, a colleague, you know, participant is like huge.
Yeah. I mean, what a great, I mean, the late Lance Reddick,
man,
who just, again, final
such
film.
A good guy.
Yeah.
Such a good dude. Like, oh, man, that sucks. It just like, he was wonderful.
Yeah. No, we've lost some good ones lately. So, so kind of an amazing string of projects for you recently. What are you excited about next? What are you looking forward to? What's coming up on the docket for you?
I just was in India, shot an indie movie there for 3.5 weeks called Mosquito in the Ear. And they're editing that now. Hopefully, you know, goes to festivals in the fall. And
what's the level of douche for that character?
Oh, he's a good guy.
Okay,
he's
we're back
good
on
guy, but he's also like, man, he's trying his best and he's coming up a little short. You know, like it's a couple who have been through this. It's the story of a couple who are adopting a young girl from India. And it's based on this Italian graphic novel that was written and illustrated by the actual father of this couple that went through this process. Mm-hmm. And it's really a wonderful story because it's not, it's like free of this like white savior narrative. It's not painting India from this kind of outside view of it. The girl that they're adopting has this like fulfilling life at the orphanage where she is. Like she's a leader amongst her friends and peers there. And to take her from that world is really painful for her. But the reality is also that she will age out of the system at 13 and won't have anywhere to live. And so it is better for her to leave and have the opportunity to be a part of this family than it is for her to stay, even though it is tearing her like directly from her culture. It's this really kind of beautiful story of circumstance as opposed to opposing wants and needs. It's like everybody wants the same thing, which is for this girl to have a loving, fulfilling life. What does that look like? And what's the path toward that, and how are you of service to that thing? Also knowing like you might be causing hurt along the way. It's really cool.
Interesting.
So, this wonderful writer, director, Nico and Chiari, made it, or we made it with him and his wife and producing partner, Emily. And, man, I haven't been that excited for like a thing in a while.
That's great. Pumped.
Yeah. So that'll hopefully, I don't know what the timeline is, but it'll do festivals in the fall, and then you hope it winds up somewhere, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that's it for now, man.
That's Jake Lacy, star of Apples Never Fall, now streaming on Peacock. And that's it for this edition of Variety's Award Circuit Podcast. Aaron Greenewald edited this episode, and Michael Schneider is the producer. Be sure to subscribe to the Award Circuit Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Also, head on over to Variety.com and click on the Award Circuit tab to find the latest awards predictions and key races, as well as your daily fix of news, analysis, and reviews. For Jazz Tanke, Emily Longaretta, and Clayton Davis, I'm Michael Schneider, and we'll see you on the circuit.